your broom falls apart. It's the type of broom that you screw in the bottom and the top. We speak about a soft broom that could be used on Shabbos. So what happens if it falls apart? Are you allowed to put it together? And the answer is no. Okay, so if it falls apart, it's like building it back again together. It cannot be done. A screw falls out of your eyeglasses. Most of the class here does not wear glasses. So that's good.
Many people are wearing contacts.
Okay, so as far as the if a screw falls out, the lens falls out, could you put it back together? And the answer is again no. Building it up. If the lens falls out on a regular basis, then it is sort of to you. Put back, take it out. It's not something that you're going to sort of keep there permanently. So then you would be permitted to put it back. Changing the closing and attaching the cover of a utensil, that's what we call that a jar, and putting back the top would be fine. You're not creating it. It's just like opening up a door. When you're closing the door, you're not building. Same thing would also be with a utensil. Opening and closing would be fine. In some circles, they are concerned about opening up a soda bottle or a wine bottle that has a cap to it that is attached. The bottles that we have here on the table, there's nothing that it's not attached, so it's not a question. It's those that have like a ring around it, and it has like a plastic, like they're attached to the cover. Opening that up on Shabbos. So in some circles, they are strict about it. And here, we do not consider it making a vessel, and therefore we do open and close bottles on Shabbos.
What if you attach the broom and then untouch it?
No. Once you did it, you did it. You're not. It's the making of it, not that you have it. It's the making of it. That itself is the malach.
Question. There's like a sticker. This is not allowed. The white, like the box where you add a white.
Yeah. So we are concerned about squeezing. So that's a concern.
And what about also like the chopsticks?
That's not it's not meant to be. It's not a permanent attachment. So eating with chopsticks on Shabbos is fine. That's fine.
So you can open
I'm not speaking about the cans. I'm speaking about the bottles. You have the soda bottle. Yes. So in our community, we do open them up. In other communities, they open up all the bottles before Shabbos, and they do not open it up on Shabbos. We consider when you're opening it up, you're making the cap into a vessel. That's how they look at it. Over here, it's not a real vessel. No one is going to be using the top to use it as your cup. So we do not consider the top as a vessel at this point. And it's meant to be opened up. So it's a flimsy attachment. And we do the same. We in our community we do open up we're not speaking about cans. I'm not speaking now about the soda bottles, wine bottles. Okay, I'm speaking about the bottles. Now, what about the cans? That is something that's controversial in the our community as well. And therefore, there are those who will not use the cans on Shabbos, in other words, the soda cans, because they have like an opening it's made to be exact, like you're making a nice opening. It's not the same as breaking a can or opening up the can where you're not actually making a nice, free opening that it is. So in some circles, and so again, you would have to ask your halachic authority as far as opening up soda cans on Shabbos when they have the flip top.
Yeah, you are.
Because it's controversial, so I cannot say one way or the other. Some, even in Lubavitch, some will open cans. The one who your halachic authority. No, you have to find someone and see what happens. I'm here only for this year. You have to have someone that you're going to.
What do we want to do? Yeah.
We have here, we have the Bezdin, they will answer these questions. We have the Bezdin, I gave you the number last time, I can do it again. We'll give you the Bezdin number, I don't have my phone with me, so I can't give it to you, so next week I'll put the phone on the board. So, they answer you, question, you could email, call, they're pretty good in answering the questions. Changing positions of a book stand, even if it has a screw, if it's meant to open and close, then it's fine. Sweeping, we spoke about a previous time about we use a soft bristle broom that is permissible on Shabbos. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Building is the same. Yontif in Shabbos is the same as building is concerned. 299. Braiding hair and unbraiding hair cannot be done on Shabbos. Use for hairspray cannot be done. Hairspray. Again, it is hardening the hair to keep it in style, and it's fortifying the style that's there. 300, building toys, folding papers to make it as a toy, cannot be done. You could fold a napkin. You want to put it on the table, you could make it also put it into the cup. That's also fine. You have the, some people make it and they open it up like this. So you're not really building anything, it's just, here we are. So this is fine on Shabbos. Also folding it on Shabbos is also good, but not to make it into an actual toy. We make a little hat or a boat or anything of that sort. Making tents cannot be done. Now, if you do have, let's say, let's give an example where you have an awning. When you open up the awning, you're making a tent. You have those who have a covering to their sukkah, that when it rains, they cover their sukkah, and after the rain, they open it up. So it depends what kind of, so let's speak about the one that we're covering up this sukkah. So if it is flat on the schach, so there is no space of a tefach, a handbreadth, so you're not really making a tent. A tent means there's something under it. Over here, it's flat on the sukkah top. What you're doing is you're just rolling up onto the schach. It's there already. You're just opening it up on it, but you're not making actually any tent because tent is only if there's a space in between. What happens if it's an awning? Awning is that you could open up and opens up. The same thing, what happens if you have the covering, the tarp is on rollers where it's raised above the schach, and you have a tefach there. So then if it's open, one tefach before Shabbos or Yontif, then you're allowed to continue spreading it out. Then rolling back up and leave one tefach still unrolled. So there has to be still a space of a tefach that you're allowed to extend a temporary tent. So the same thing is also with an awning. If it was open before Shabbos and Yontif, one handbreadth, and you're allowed to extend the rest. Same would also apply to the canopy of a stroller. You have a hood. So if it's open before Shabbos and Yontif, one handbreadth, and you're allowed to extend it. When you're closing it, don't close it completely, leave one handbreadth still there. So since it is a temporary, it's meant to open and close, it's temporary, so you're allowed to extend it and fold it back, as long as you leave one tefach where you still have the initial tent beginning. Playing tents with children or putting it over a blanket over chairs, that should be discouraged because making the tent to begin with, unless it was spread out before Shabbos, one handbreadth, you'll not extend the rest of it. It was a play tent that they were going to play, that you knew the game they were going to play, you wanted them to play that game, then you started off before Shabbos, one handbreadth. Other than that, opening an umbrella, parcel, these are out, not permissible. No. Now, all the folding chairs, folding beds, folding tables are permissible. They are already there, you're just making already something that exists. Now, you have some tables that have an extension. And the extension has pegs that goes into one side, and there are pegs on the other side that goes into the other side. So are you allowed to put the extension in on Shabbos? Yes, no? Okay, now you have a table that has a split. You pull the table and it opens up on tracks. So you have a small table, and then when you have guests, you pull the table, the two ends, there are tracks here, it opens up. And then you have a board that is going to be put inside between the two. It has little pegs here, pegs here, pegs here, pegs here, and it goes into holes in the sides of the table. And then you push it together, and now you have a larger table. Are you permitted to put the extension in and take the extension out on Shabbos and Yom Tov? And the answer is yes. You are permitted because it's something that it's very easily able to be taken out, easily taken in, put back in. It's not meant to be there permanently, even if you leave it there, but that's your choice. And it's also not meant to be a tent, and people do not sit under the table. So it's not a tent either. The question is, you make the vessel. And as far as the tent is concerned, no one, the tent is meant to be protection for people, items. So that's okay. That's pretty much. You'll fill in the rest. Taking apart whatever you're not allowed to build, you're not allowed to take apart. So anything that is a part of the building itself is considered building, and you're not allowed to do. Last week we had a couple of examples. Now let's say when it comes to putting in a screen in the summer, taking off the storm windows. You have those windows, that you have storm windows, you can take it out, you can put in screens instead. Are you allowed to do that on Shabbos and Yom Tov? Now again, anything that is a part of the building itself is called building. Therefore, you cannot take these storm windows out and replace it with screens. Screens are considered attached to the building. Storm windows are a part of the building. You are dismantling, taking apart when you take the window out. Building when you put the window in. So that cannot be done on Shabbos. Mosquito. So if it's wrapped, if it's one handbreadth extended before Shabbos and Yom Tov, you're allowed to. If you're putting a mosquito net on the window.
Yeah, or like taking it off.
Oh, so since this is not attached to the, so that's a little. I don't know how useful it would be the way it's permissible on Shabbos. What you could do, how is it going to stick to the opening? How is it going to hold to the opening? If it's going to be, if it's loose, it's fine. In other words, if there are hooks there, and I put on a curtain or net, it's going to flop in the wind, then that is permissible. It's not something that is permanent. It's not attached to the building in a semi-permanent way. If you have the mosquito net would be like a screen. So how is it going to prevent mosquitoes from coming in? It's still going to be loose.
So then if it wasn't the window, that would be a problem. Like
Yes,
you put it
yes,
on, then-
right.
and then it would be- that's not good.
That's good. In other words, if it has a frame that's going to hold on with a frame, that cannot be done. If
Okay.
it's loose, then it's fine. Same would be if you have a mosquito net that's over a carriage or over a crib. So again, if it's open, one hand breadth before Shabbos, not that we just extend it, when you roll it back, you leave that one hand breadth still intact. Yes, Lee? Lee, you had a question?
Yes.
Yes.
What about the door that fits the screen?
Okay, so that is a door that's meant to be open and closed, that is fine. But right now, you have, just like you're allowed to open the window, you're allowed to open up, if you have a storm window there, then you open the storm window, you're opening up a window, that's fine, you're not taking the window out of the frame, you're just opening it and closing. So if you have a storm window and that's blocking the screen, you open up pull up the screen, pull up the storm window, you're not taking it out. So then that is fine. So you're allowed to lower down the screen, there's no issue with that, lowering it and picking it up. The thing is installing it is the problem and taking it out is the problem. Now, in this book, 308, they are lenient about opening cans on Shabbos. Problem used to be that when you open the can, they made it into a vessel that was used. People used to cook eggs in the big juice cans, and it was quite often that people would have the eggs had blood spots. And many a time the vessel itself would become treif because they had two blood spots, the majority of the eggs had blood spots, and you would have to kasha the vessel in which you're cooking the eggs. So then people would use the cans and then throw it out. But they use the cans. Also, people would use it for pencil holders. People would make use of the cans. Nowadays, we don't make use of the cans. So therefore, this suggests, so at one time, they used to say that if you do want to open up a can, first of all, don't open up cans on Shabbos. That's the worst of the ones that you're opening on Shabbos. It's the most building type activity. So avoid cans. However, if you're doing it in the destructive way, and it is permissible, so you would destruct for the food that you need for Shabbos. So you'd make a hole on the bottom, a hole on top, and the can is no longer used as a vessel. However, now, if you open it up halfway, let's say you have tuna, you open it up halfway, empty the contents, and throw away the tuna can. So you've not really opened it enough to make it use of it. You're throwing it out. It shows that you're not using it as a vessel. So that's the leniency that they have here. So
But how's this plastic container, like the dips they come in plastic
Yeah.
containers. So you might come to realize that as well.
but over there, the top is not really that a part of the plastic. Over here, the can is one entity. And you're taking it apart now, making it into something that is creating now a new opening. But with the plastics, you're just attaching one to they're two separate things to begin with. You attach one to the other. It's a flimsy attachment. It's meant to be opened up. So when you're going for food, you could do that.
So if you open a can of hearts and palms, but not all the way, and you
Take it out and throw
and
out.
then throw it away,
Yes.
that's fine.
That's
And corn,
same you.
olives, okay,
So you could be like again, but that's not our first choice. Our first choice is to open it before Shabbos.
yes, yes.
If you didn't, then you want the olives, you open it up halfway, empty out the can, and throw it out right away.
You have to open it with a knife.
Hmm?
You have to open it with like a knife, so you have to open it there.
Well, in this case, what you can open it,
You can.
again, open it halfway.
You don't have to make holes in it first.
That's the way they used to tell you to do. I mean, the way I was taught, like you have to, I don't know how, what, I guess we're done with the screwdriver. You have the screwdriver that has the point, and you would stab it. And, but it's, again, recommended not to open up cans on Shabbos. Again, if you're opening up any packages, make sure not to tear the words or pictures, that sort. Next, malacha extinguishing. We started with extinguishing. There's two malachas. One is Machaba is extinguishing, the Mavil is making the fire. Both of them are a part of the process that was done in the Mishkan. In the Mishkan, they used coals to use for cooking, to cook up the dye, and to heat up the metal when they wanted to soften the metal or shape the metal. So in order to do so, they needed charcoal, coals. You needed a hot fire. If you're going to have a wood fire, it's not going to be the heat is not going to be so intense for the temperature that you need. So they would first make coals, charcoals, and then extinguish the fire. And now you have the coals ready to use when you're ready to melt the gold, silver, copper. So extinguishing a fire is a malacha, and that would include extinguishing the fire of a lit candle, wood, removing flammable material from the fire. If it is an oil candle, or you have for Shabbos, there are those who use a liquid fuel for the candle lighting. And when some people have, they like to use oil, put a wick in. Some people use like a fuel in. So taking out some of this liquid or adding to the liquid, that is part of the malacha. If you're taking away the liquid, you're extinguishing it. You're making the burning time less. If you're adding, you're making it more. But also, if you're tipping it, you're bringing there's a wick in here. And when you're tipping it, you're bringing more of the oil to the wick where it's going to burn out brighter. So this would be making the fire and then moving it back that the liquid goes away from the wick. That would be extinguishing because you're lessening the time of burning. Both of these are malacha, cannot be done on Shabbos. The Rabbanan were concerned doing an action that might cause extinguishing, and that would be if you have your Shabbos candles burning on the table, and you have a window where the wind blows directly onto the candles, so then you're not allowed to open up this window that is directly against the candle because might cause the wind to blow and extinguish the candles. So you're doing an action that might extinguish the candles, cannot be done. Now, reducing heat in a fire of gas or electric, all of these is called extinguishing. What happens if you had a fire before Shabbos, a gas stove, and the fire goes out, and the gas continues to come in? What should one do? Is it a problem? You have a problem of the gas just keeping to fill the room. It's dangerous. So what do? We have to close the gas knob. There is no fire there. What you're doing is just closing off the gas. What you should do is do it with a shinui, do it with a way that's different than you normally would. Normally you would close it this way, do it this way. So you remember that it's Shabbos, and you do it in a shinui with a way that is different than you would do in the. Now, what happens if you have the candles, especially if you have the tea lights, and people put up napkins, and someone walks by, and the napkin is a flimsy napkin, and it flies right onto on the fire. That makes it very, very frightening. And usually you don't think too long, and you just put it out. But that's not the way we could do it. Shabbos, we can't put it out unless it's a danger to someone's life. If it's a danger to life, then you do whatever it takes to save a life. but the case that it's not a danger to life. So first of all, if it's on a tray and the napkin lands in the tray and does not go away from the tray, so it's really not a danger because it's not going to spread anywhere. It's just going to burn out on the tray. So first you have to see where it is. Now, what happens if we are concerned that it might spread? Tablecloth caught on fire. Now what do we do? Okay, so we could not pour water directly on it. We could pour water around it. Now, it matters what kind of table, what's covering the table. If it's something that we're not concerned about washing, which would be, let's say, a plastic, you could pour water on the, liquid around, surrounding where the fire is, and when the fire reaches that, it will extinguish. If it's a tablecloth, we would not pour water on it. We would pour another liquid that's going to make the tablecloth dirty. If you're pouring water, it's cleansing the tablecloth. If you're pouring wine, soda, or any other liquid that is going to color the tablecloth, which means that normally you would wash the tablecloth after such a liquid goes on it. So you're not washing the tablecloth, you are soiling the tablecloth. So therefore, this is something that you could do. You could also, again, this is all, could take the whole thing and throw it in the bathtub or in the shower, where it's going to burn out by itself. That's something that you can do, even though it might be, but again, it matters according to the situation. You have to know what the situation is. If it's something that you can carry the whole thing outside, where you're allowed to carry, you put it outside. It has to be according to the situation. Nothing that one can do. You could fill this up with water. And then make a slip knot. Not to make a knot, but make a slip knot. Now this is full of water. Put it down. You can fill up a number of bags with water, put it all around it, and when the heat comes, the bag will burst, and the water will reduce the fire. So you're doing it indirectly. You did not make a knot because. Okay. If we would have time, I actually brought my lighter and to light a tissue and see what happens, but we don't have time for it. Okay. So that's basically, again, on page 315, if the power lines fall down and it is a concern that someone might touch it, you could have someone call the fire department, electric company, and if it is, you can't find anyone to do it, one could call themselves because it is a life danger, danger for life. Again, you do to prevent lighting. Okay, the next malacha is mavir, making the fire. And the page 317, this includes adding fuel to a lit fire, stoking the coals, page 318, heating metal with fire until it turns red hot. So heating up a metal until it's red hot is a Torah prohibition. And therefore, when you had the bulbs, the tungsten bulbs that had a wire, and it would get so hot, it would start to glow. That's how you got your light. Such a bulb is a Torah prohibition because you are heating up the elements, filaments, until it glows. That is a Torah prohibition included in fire. See, turning on electric stove, hot plates, all of these are forbidden. Lighting a fire, opening a window opposite the fire, reading by candlelight. So it matters what kind of light you're speaking about. If it was light that was from a wick, we are concerned not to read by the candlelight of a wick, because since it is a fuel and it's dimming, one might push the candelabra to get more fuel to the wick and it'll burn brighter. What could be done, permissible would be if two people, if one person is told to watch the other person, make sure he doesn't touch the wick, or two people are reading from the same article, so one person will remind the other. The fact that we have now electricity, we have now also the candles that are not with wick, so you could read by the candlelight of a candle, actual candle. Also, you have the bulbs that are, you could put it on low, medium, high. You could have an adjustable light. So you are permitted to read by that light. We're not concerned that you might increase the voltage, the wattage. Okay. Page 320. Using a refrigerator on Shabbos, what's the issue? Okay, number one, if there is some refrigerators, initially they start off with a light bulb in the refrigerator. So open up the refrigerator, you'll be opening up the light. So that's an issue. What do we have to do about that? Remove the bulb, or a piece of tape that's strong. There's a little prong that when you open the door, the prong pops out. When you close the door, the prong pops back in. So therefore, putting a tape on that would, for Shabbos, that would be that is what one should do. Then there's another problem on page 320. What's the other problem with the refrigerator? It has a thermostat. What's the problem with the thermostat? Right. Now, it works as follows. When it becomes warm inside the refrigerator, the thermostat starts working and puts on the motor. When it's cold, it's a certain temperature, the motor stops. When you open the door of the refrigerator, depending how long you keep the door open, would change the temperature inside the refrigerator, would get warmer, and the motor would start working. So now there are two opinions about opening up a refrigerator when the motor is not working. When the motor is working, it's working already. It's just continuing to work. When you open up the door and the warm temperature goes in, it's just not going to stop. It's just continuing. You did not activate the motor because the motor was working before you opened the door. So to some people, their standard is they will not open the refrigerator until they hear the motor working. You can hear it's a hum. When you hear the motor working, that's when they would open up the refrigerator and take out whatever they want. When the motor is not working, they will not open the refrigerator because they are concerned that possibly as you open the door, the motor is going to go on immediately because the temperature has now become warmer inside the refrigerator itself. When you're opening up the door, that's the moment that the motor is just going to, like giving that extra warmth, because the motor is going to go on. So again, when the houses that you've been, is there any rule in the houses? Did you have any house that you went to that they said, don't open the refrigerator until the motor goes? So again, over here, it brings both standards. For those who have a more strict standard that they will not open the refrigerator door until the motor is working. Others will, what's the reason why they will open the door even though the motor is not working? What's the reason for the permissibility? You need food, but you need food when you have the light also. That's not a reason. Because you have a bulb and you need the food, can you open the door? No. So why over here do they say it's permissible to open up the door when the motor is not working? Because they assume, what's the assumption? They assume that when you open the door, it's that cold that it takes some time for it, the thermostat to kick in. So by you initially opening up the door, you're not activating the motor because the motor is going on after the door already has been opened. That's the reasoning for the making it permissible, because you do not anticipate that by opening the door, you're going to activate the motor.
Wait,
So this is your, again, what standard you should keep. I'm not telling you what standard to keep. I'm telling you there are two standards. Some are more strict, some are more lenient. Yes.
what did you do after if the light went on?
Okay, there was a refrigerator. You opened the door, you did not know the bulb was on, or what happened, the tape came off,
The light
and now it's on. So there's a separate malacha. One malacha is making a fire, which is opening the bulb. A second malacha is closing the bulb. So there are two separate malachas. So the fact that you've now opened it, which was not your, you were not aware, it was not done deliberately. This was something that you were not aware of at all. So that was not, no wrongdoing was done. However, closing it deliberately, that is a malacha on its own. So what do you do? What do we do? The refrigerator was open, there's a light bulb there, and now what do you do? You can't say, oops, the door, it's not gonna work.
That's true.
So what do we do? What we're concerned about is we don't want the heat to come into the refrigerator and spoil all the food that's in the refrigerator. So what we're trying to do is keep the cold in the refrigerator as much as possible. So how do we do that? Okay, so what you'll do is you'll take a chair, move it against the door of the refrigerator. Because if it's not going to be there, either it's going to close by itself, or so you close the door, close it. You see, you know how much, approximately how much you're able to push the door without it closing that crumb, not closing that switch. And then what you could do, you could take a towel, drape the opening with a towel or a blanket. So now you're not making a tent, you're just covering up the opening, so it's going to keep the cold inside, and we'll have fresh food after Shabbos. So what we've done is we close the door as much as possible without actually closing the switch. The switch is still on, the light will still be on, but putting the door there so no one will sort of tamper with it, forget, push, whatever it may be. The refrigerator door will be held by the chair, not to open up more. Then we're going to take out all the food that you want. Then you could put a towel, a blanket to keep the inside. Okay, now we have fresh food. And it won't spoil. Okay. So we have two more topics. I want you to read this. This is something that striking with a hammer and transferring from one domain to another. Those are two topics that we'll try to cover next week. And that will be all the Lamatas Malachas. Look to something that is in the book that you will read. There's a lot of information that we have. We have different topics that we're not going to cover in class, but the rest of the book I would want you to read, so you'll be familiar with all of the information.
Next week is our
Last lesson, yes, because after that, it's so we have the graduations on the 17th.
Yes.
It's the Thursday before next week, that Thursday. Okay.
So wait, once you have already opened the fridge, you turn the light on, can we take things out?
Things out, yes. Once it was done, it was not done intentionally.
Just
Couldn't,
don't close it.
So, let's see what we have. Alexa. Usually. Okay. Yocheved. Here, Esther. Skula. here. One is here.